Hello, hello. Welcome back, my friends, to another episode on A Mother's Journey to Holistic Health and Healing. This is Marissa Prieto, your host, and this is episode 54. Today's conversation, I'm super excited for the energy has been building up for me for this conversation. It's for the mom who feels kind of like that quiet whisper, like a nudge, when you feel like there might be something missing or something more for more purpose, or but between kind of like work and family and responsibilities and all the things, it can sometimes, like, I feel like that voice is distant, or maybe that vision's not quite as clear. And so today I'm sitting with Norma. She's the founder of Sage Holistic Wellness here in El Paso, Texas. It's a beautiful community space for meditation, yoga, and other workshops and collaborative healing. I'm just going to really read her bio that she shared with me. So, after a profound shift from a successful corporate career, Norma answered the calling rooted in healing and community. In 2021, she founded the Noble House and Sage Holistic Wellness. Now, 5 years in, they offer a sacred space for transformation. Her journey from a dark night of the soul to becoming a medicine carrier has shaped her work. From trauma-informed body work, somatic movement, nervous system regulation, sound therapy, and indigenous practices like Kambo, to corporate wellness and community events. Now she's returned to her hometown, and she's devoted to fostering connection, healing, and holistic growth, especially in community as women. So I love that bio. Thank you so much, Norma, for being here and connecting with us. Yes.
Thank you so
Come
much
on
for having
in.
me.
Huh.
I love being here. Thank you so much for the invite. This is such an important conversation to have. So thank you so much for
Yeah,
that warm
no, thank
welcome.
you. Yeah, thank you. And is there anything else that you feel I left out or that you'd like to share with the listeners? Anything else you'd like to share about yourself in particular that you would like anyone else to know? Anything that stands out?
I definitely think that beyond, a medicine carrier and all of this incredible work that I love that pours from my heart, my most sacred role is as a mother. And so it's beautiful speaking with other mothers out there today
Yeah.
and, giving birth to new possibilities, to more children, to trying to manage things. I absolutely hear you and I feel you and I see you, because that balance does take some intention for sure. But that is my most sacred role, I feel.
Mm, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. It really is a blessing. Motherhood is just like, can we learn so much, I feel like, from being a mom, from our children and from ourselves. I feel like it's a
For sure.
spiritual, like, initiation, a spiritual thing, really, because there's just so much that we learn from and grow from.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you said that because I feel that so strongly that children can teach us so much because they're free, right? They're before the
Hmm.
world get, especially the really little ones under like age 6 or
Mm,
8. Oh
yeah,
my goodness, they're so free. They just are. They have no
they are.
agenda, no filters. They're just
Yes.
authentic. And
Yes.
it's so wonderful to witness. I love having conversations with little ones and with
Hmm.
older people, kind of the transition in and the transition
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots to
Yeah.
share. Yeah.
I agree. I feel like my son just turned 8 last
Oh,
Saturday or the Saturday before. Yeah. And it's like that. And then my girls are going to be 3 in this month in March. And so it's like my son always brings me back to like the present moment, right? Because they're always in the
mm-hmm.
present moment, our children, right?
Yes.
And kind of just, playing in the dirt and just kind of, my girls remind me of being, playful and just like kind of just that our emotions are going to change and shift so many times, just like theirs, because they're toddlers. And so one minute they're like all happy and playing,
Yes.
and the next thing they're like crying and like
They're
moody. And
just
so I'm like,
expressing. And that's why I always say the
yeah.
more regulated we are as parents,
Oh
the better
yeah.
we can help them create the ability to re-regulate themselves, right? And to also
Hmm.
develop like emotional regulation to learn like it's okay to feel things, right? We
Hmm.
just don't want to stay there, but it's all right to feel that.
Right.
So
Exactly. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. We actually had that conversation. We talked a lot bit about that on our last episode with our last guest, Charlene. And that was one of the things she was teaching her children at the time is that emotional regulation, and also kind of communicating that with one another, right? Where you're
Mm.
communicating to your child, I'm feeling this right now, and then that they're also learning
Yes.
that way too, right? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they learn very much from their environment. So, we
Yes.
can't really say like do as I say, not as I do. They are going to be a product of their environment. So if we're not regulating our emotions, they're gonna be
Right.
like, oh, that's how we
Sure.
operate. Cool, got it. And so it'll just be
Exactly.
cycles repeating themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, why we also have these conversations is because we are truly breaking those cycles. We
Yes.
are we are parenting differently, we are learning differently, we are dismantling a lot of conditioning, a lot of systems that
Yes.
we've been, brought up with, and like really questioning them. And and we're doing that with our children too. I feel like a lot of us now these days, and breaking those cycles. Yeah, because it has to change. Things have to change.
Yes. Yes.
We've got to get this new earth going on here. And so
Absolutely. And it starts with a
yeah.
decision like, you know what?
Yeah.
It stops with me. It stops with
Yes,
me and
exactly.
I'm no longer going to carry this forward. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a liberation. We liberate our children when we liberate ourselves. I always say when we
Oh,
heal
I love that.
ourselves, we heal our
We,
bloodline. It's amazing.
I,
Yeah.
I truly agree with that as well.
Hmm.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into you and your story, because
Okay.
I'm so excited to learn about your story and the Norma that you are today versus the Norma before. So I always like to kind of open up the beginning of the episode. Like you can kind of reflect back to the Norma, the person that you were, the mom that you were, before you moved to California. So you were still kind of in El Paso before you moved to California, and you're about to, like, maybe kind of paint us a little bit of a picture of like what was life for you back then, your mental state, emotional, like kind of just getting a feel of what you can recall about, yeah, what things were like for you back then.
Definitely remember feeling that I couldn't leave El Paso fast enough, and that there was a big, huge world to discover, and I wanted to be a part of it, and I wanted to leave this place behind,
Mhm.
and just grow and do all the things, right, climb the ladders and take all the steps to be successful, and so that people can say you're doing great,
Mm.
and the external validation of like you've got a good job or you're doing great in school or whatever it is that a lot of times society teaches us by performing and by producing, right, then maybe we'll get that love or
Yes.
recognition that we kind of are looking for. And so that's where
Mm.
my, headspace was. And, I
Hmm.
come from humble beginnings with my parents. They always gave us a lot of love and worked really hard for us, but I am one of five.
Oh,
Um, and so our household
big
was
family.
very busy, and I learned to be very resourceful because it was a busy home. And so you try to figure out like how can I stand out here, in this
Hmm.
like big group of people. I mean, my
Hmm.
siblings, even though our parents came from humble beginnings, we all I think had a drive to like get out or or
Mm, yeah.
become something, or like we owed it to our parents
Yes.
for paving the path for us and working so hard. And so I definitely had that mindset that I just couldn't get out of here fast enough. I wanted to build something that my parents
Mm,
can be proud of.
mm,
And it was really more so that the external, like how everything lined up, having the, 2.5 or two kids, the picket fence, the dog,
mm,
the nice little family. And
mm,
so that's where my
mm,
drive was looking towards.
mm.
But it was also very traditional, right? So I also had a traditional idea of what life was supposed to be. And so,
A
yeah,
lot of
hindsight
us
is
do,
always
right?
2020.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes. And so sometimes we even feel shame for like wanting something different because it's
Yeah,
like,
or more,
you're
or
weird
or
or
guilt.
more.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. Guilt as well. And so, yeah, that's kind of where the mindset started there. And
Mm,
then as I've progressed and on paper, and I was looking good on paper, checking the boxes, fast forward, to sunny, beautiful Los Angeles. And fast forwarding there and looking back, our path starts there by thinking
mm-hmm.
from whatever systems we come from, whatever
Mm.
conditioning. Like you just get a good
Yeah.
job and then you just stay there, and that's okay if that's what someone wants, is that safety and security. I definitely remember wanting that.
Mm,
safety and security.
gotcha. So at the beginning, when you applied, that was kind of one of those values, one of those things that you were like, that why you made that decision. It was like, well, number one, you wanted to get out, you were ambitious, you like wanted to
Yes,
change, but also
yes.
there was that like, I want to be successful. That's kind of what stirred that in you to move over there, or some of those values.
Originally, it was
Yeah, originally,
actually
yeah.
for it was for a boy, and or it
Oh,
was for a
okay.
relationship, and that's what actually really. I mean, I had already left El Paso and was living in Houston for several years, and so I
Oh,
was
okay.
just at the precipice of like, okay, do I go back home? What do I do? And so I was at a
Mm,
crossroad, and
I see.
we just happened to meet each other, and we met each other in El Paso in the hometown, and so neither one of us was living here, but I took it as a sign. That's one thing um, I have always
Mm,
been able to kind of feel my intuition, and I didn't think too much of it, to be honest with you. I was like, well, there's
same.
my reason to head to California. Not only do
California.
I have, a relationship to move for and to develop, but like, okay, I could see promise. I could see myself growing there.
Yeah.
So I
Mm,
decided to go there instead of,
mm,
him going the other way to
mhm.
Houston. And so
And
that's what brought me
you had your
there.
boys, your kids already by that time?
No,
Oh,
I had both of my children in Santa Monica, so it wasn't
oh,
until I
okay.
moved to California that, yeah,
Oh, they were born over there. Okay.
yes, yes, they were both born there. And,
Mm,
those, especially in a climate like Los Angeles, it seems very laid back. It seems very, it's
mm,
sunny, it's beautiful, but it is quite the pricey, place to live. And so
yes. For-
that drive also to like, to make it, to push forward, to work really hard. And I was also supporting someone else's dreams while I was,
mhm.
just putting my nose down, working really hard, and supporting someone else and helping them rise into their dreams as well. And so I had a very safe, wonderful, corporate job, and yeah, so that was part of maintaining that. Is that well, I have children now, right? And once you
Mm,
make that commitment, like there's just
yeah.
no going back. And
Right.
I'll do whatever it takes and sacrifice any of the dreams that I
Mm,
have because for the greater
mm,
good and for the
mhm.
greater good. And so
Yeah.
that's where that was until it wasn't.
Right, right. Yeah, because I think at some point in our life when we hit that big, whether it's like an aha or just kind of like a, you just can't like go on a certain way, or you kind
Hmm.
of hit rock bottom, or like whatever kind of like speaking on those kind of terms, right? Is like until you
Hmm.
can't go no more, like something's got to
Yes.
give, something's got to change, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
was
I
that
call it the tower moment. Just, I don't know if you
okay?
are familiar with
Yeah,
like tarot cards or the
yeah,
tower where it's like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
fire, everything's
Oh
just
yeah,
like imploded and it's falling
yes,
apart. But it has to fall apart in order for you to build something
right.
authentic,
Another
true,
foundation.
sustainable. Yes. It's
Mm-hmm.
not anyone
Yeah.
punishing you. It's really because the facade had to break apart to
Mm-hmm.
expose the truth. And like, what are you going to do with all these
Exactly.
pieces? How are you going to put them back together? So
Right.
that was the dark night of the soul, the rupture of
Mm,
everything that I thought I had built, the rupture of that relationship that I had completely like enmeshed myself in, rising and
mm,
giving and I'll take care of everything else and sort of um and I did that in that moment. I don't punish myself. That's what I thought I was
mm-hmm.
supposed to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that's what my role was. And just I'm in the back burner. My dreams are back here because I have to, I
Mm-hmm.
have to help another realize their dreams. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not until that implosion happened where I was like, you know what? Um, who I mean, like to lose yourself.
Yeah.
And that again is where I had to take some accountability and some honesty with myself and say, like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, where was I participating in this? Even if it was like allowing things to happen. Right.
Right.
Or maybe like looking the other way or sort of like making excuses or whatever it
Yeah.
was, or continuing to
Oh,
sacrifice my own
yeah.
happiness. And so when all of that imploded, it was like, oh, the blindfold game all the way off. And that was to me, in the moment, it was absolutely heart wrenching. And in the way I describe it, it's like my soul felt fractured because I was
Mm,
so enmeshed, right? My happiness was so
yeah.
enmeshed and in how the other was feeling, or um, where I had really denied myself what my personality was. I had kind of really subdued myself. I've always been an extrovert,
Mm,
and I just had to kind of be a smaller version of myself to fit into that relationship. And
mm,
so all of a sudden it became
mm-hmm.
like, okay, I got to look at some stuff now that it all
Oh,
just crashed.
wow. So do you, what was it like for you? Like when you started realizing these things, like little by little, was there certain sensations, like emotions or thoughts that started creeping in, and then little by little they just got louder? Or was it like several particular moments where you were like having these insights and aha moments? Like I'm curious how that kind of flowed for you.
Sure. I think that I always say that it was the universe trying to knock some sense into me. That I had a really bizarre concussion. And so I was unloading groceries and the trunk landed on my head. I got a concussion, really bad one. And after that, a lot opened up. I'm talking like
Mm,
energetically,
yeah,
like
we
a lot
talked
of
about that.
window panes. Yeah, we talked about
Yeah.
that. A lot of window panes open at the same time. And so at the
Mm,
time I did not have the tools, the bandwidth. I didn't know exactly how to manage that. And so I
mm-hmm.
do remember I was already like really because it happened quickly once it did happen. It literally the tower just like imploded fast.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
but that concussion really did come first, and that was
Mm.
my opening. So I started having very vivid
Oh.
dreams. I started feeling profoundly like all the clairs, as they say, sentient, cognizant, voyant, all the clairs. And so that I do remember that it was so overwhelming at the time that I didn't have the tools or bandwidth to even know what that was trying to teach me or show
Mm-hmm.
me. I was like, can you like a couple months passed and I was like, this is too much at one time. Now I'd be like, yes. But at the time
Yeah.
it was just too much. But because of that, it opened up the truth. It really like it
Mm.
something got shifted and I could no longer lie to myself. So then
Mm.
literally like everything started just imploding, and it wasn't that anything new was happening. I just started noticing it. And so
Oh, you became more aware, more
yes,
conscious of
I was
certain things.
absolutely like beyond aware,
Gotcha.
like
Oh,
extrasensory aware. And
yeah.
so that's when I really was like, I need to look at this, like what's happening. And I
Oh,
do
I
remember,
see.
yeah, having a conversation with myself, like, "Can I just stuff this down so far that I can just forget that any of it
Like
happened. Because I
ignore
have a
it. You kind of
family, I
were.
can ignore it. Can I just move forward and do that? And I had that honest
Oh.
conversation with myself. Yeah. And you just have to, at some point, decide like, I deserve to have a life too. I deserve
Mm.
to be honored. I deserve to see what life is like. I deserve to just exist and be and feel seen and heard,
Mm.
even if it's independent of this relationship. Like I just knew I deserved to explore more, and so that
Mm-hmm.
was a huge catalyst. So again, going back to Dr. Wayne Dyer, I could have seen it as like, what is this happening to me? And for a moment I did. I'm
Yeah.
not I ugly cried my fair share. But
That happens,
I
I feel like,
also
to a lot of us. Yeah. Our brain wants to
sure.
go there 1st. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and we absolutely should hold space
Yeah.
for those emotions,
Yeah.
because if not, it'll show up in our body later. If we don't
Right.
give it the space to like grieve and cry or whatever you need,
Exactly.
we'll really bring it down into the body, and it'll unfortunately
Manifest.
it'll cause havoc. Yes, it'll manifest into
Mm-hmm.
disease, disharmony. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, from there were some tough decisions and tough truths that I had to face, but I knew that feeling my soul fractured,
Mm.
I had to find healing. And through my own healing process,
Mm.
through really just like sin in the muck, walking through the underworld,
Yeah.
leading myself out one modality or one session or one crying session, truth journal session at a time, that's
Yeah.
that's how I found my way to this.
Okay. So what do you remember about like some of those early healing modalities that you whether got introduced to or you learned about that kind of helped you at the beginning of your journey, your healing journey?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I really did try, and I think because it was Los Angeles, those modalities are a lot more they were a lot more
Mm.
available at the time there. And so
Mm-hmm.
I started reading about like awakening, sort of how to
Mm.
heal maybe holistically. And I started, learning some practices. And I mean, I'm talking about, this is several years back, 10 years back. And so I'm there, like, not with as many resources as we have now. So,
Right.
yes. And so I had to literally, like, find books. I love another quote that says, "When the student is ready, the teacher will
Oh, I
appear."
love that one too.
Yes, in the form of a book, a podcast,
Right.
a conversation, the
Yeah.
person standing next to you. It will always come when your heart
Yes.
has made space to say,
I agree.
"Surrender, I would love some help." Surrendering
Yes.
to, I could use some help. And that's what brought the first modality I remember
Mm.
that I leaned into was Reiki. And it was soft and
Mm.
gentle and
Mm-hmm.
just enveloping. And it just helped me kind of get into a
Mm. Same
space
here.
where I felt safe enough to
Yeah.
then, in my daily life and as a mother, kind of feel like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, now I'm kind of got my head out of sand and I can actually see and process, like,
Right.
what are the cards on the table. So
Ah.
that was the first one.
Yeah. So it was like not until you had a modality, something to help you feel safe and calm and like just kind of, how can I say, clear-minded maybe even, right? To help. Because when our nervous system is regulated, like so is our mind. It's a calmer, it's clear,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
so yeah, we were able to focus a little bit more on like, okay, I'm good. Like I have this practice. Let's take a look at what's out here in front of me, right? And
Yes.
Reiki did similar for me. When I was pregnant. So I had a loss with I had
Mm,
my first after my first pregnancy loss, and then I had
mm.
when I was pregnant with my son. When I was pregnant with my son, that's when I started self Reiki. And that's when I started just
Oh,
practicing on myself and learning about it
good.
and, the sounds and things like that. And I truly, like, I feel like that's one of the things that also helped me, not to mention, like, our mind and, managing our thoughts and things like that, helped me with the pregnancy because I had so many fears about it. But yeah, I
Mhm.
believe, yeah, it's just like when we have something to help us feel calm and grounded and to create that safety right then, we can at least have this resilience or like this cushion to kind of help us see what's in front of us and like tackle it, right? It gives
Yeah,
you like
absolutely.
this, yeah.
It gets you to just at least a regulated and safe state to where you can, again, if you're dysregulated
Decisions,
or in crisis, yes, you have more
right?
clarity on what is the next decision I need to make. But going back to Reiki,
Mm-hmm.
the my practitioner anyway was not afraid to actually do hands-on touch. And I think because I allowed myself to just surrender to the experience, that was the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, if I'm going to look for these
Mm-hmm.
modalities, I'm going to be actively involved in my healing
Yeah.
process. So that's a
Yes.
huge decision. And in my practice now, I pray every single day, or I set the intention that whoever walks through that door, at the very least, they have the door cracked just a little bit open, because I'm not in the business of pulling or saving. We're here to co-create and help each other. And so with Reiki, it's very
Mm-hmm.
much about through the breathing, through
Yeah.
the warm
Exactly.
touch, the intentions, the energy alignment. You absolutely do, right, lower your guard and sort of get into a safe space so that you can actually, like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I can see with a bit
Feel
of
the
clarity
energy.
and make decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're more
Mm-hmm.
aligned.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Were there any other healing modalities that helped you early on aside from the Reiki?
Yes, the first one I found, which is interesting, I feel like it went from 0 to 100. I discovered the
Sounds
practice
like
of
me.
yeah, Kundalini yoga. And
Mm.
Kundalini yoga is it's the yoga of
Mm-hmm.
consciousness. And so
Mm-hmm.
Kundalini yoga, I mean, I went in, and Kundalini
Mm.
yoga is very much about, like, moving, transmuting energy,
Activation.
healing, activating. Yes, and
Mm-hmm.
so I learned more about breath work then also.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
my Kundalini yoga teacher, he had been in a coma. He'd been told he was never going to walk again.
Oh
And
wow.
someone just happened to be a resident, and asked if he could share his practice. And he told them, like, "Are you kidding me? I'm sitting here laying down." And he said, "It's okay. If you cannot do the movements, visualize that you're doing the complete movement and go at your pace."
Mm.
And he ended up being a Kundalini
Wow.
yoga teacher because it made
My
such a
gosh.
profound
It's
impact in
amazing.
his life. So visualization, the
Mm.
mental capacity, and again, the
Yes.
teacher appeared for the student in
Yeah.
that moment. He could have said no. He could have, right? He could have
Right.
like pushed it away, but he didn't. And so that practice was huge for me. And that little crystal
Mm.
shop and yoga center,
Oh
the
yeah.
husband and wife, had a lot of really great healers come through from all parts of the world, and I learned a lot. So
Hmm.
I was like, yes,
It
this
gets
is,
addictive and exciting at the
yes,
same time.
yes, it
Yeah.
does. And that brings me to one of the things that I definitely had to use my own discernment in, like when a lot of,
Mm.
especially when you're eager to learn, when you're kind of in your
Yeah.
baby awakening, like, oh, I
Right.
want to know more, right? I want to do this
Honeymoon
and that.
kind of phase.
The honeymoon, it's the integration that creates
Yes.
long lasting transformation. It's the
Daily, regular,
integration.
consistent practice.
Yes, yes.
Exactly.
Yes, the
Hmm.
journaling that came with it,
Mm.
the nature walks, so like checking in, the actual
Yeah.
work, the actual
Yes.
regulation, the breath work, the
Yes.
putting into practice what we're, right, what
Yeah.
we're learning, reading, and
Yeah.
developing.
How
So
long did
yes.
you, were you, so when you started, doing all those things of practices, going to the yoga classes and, Reiki and things like that, how long do you think it was that time frame between when you started versus to when you left El Paso with that vision?
That I left Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it definitely amplified it after I went to the jungles of Peru in 2000, for the first time anyway,
Oh, girl, that's going to be another conversation we're going to
2017.
have.
Yep. Yes, and so through that
Okay,
path,
so you went
I
to
was like,
Peru.
yeah, I lost identity, and I'm like, I'm communing with 1,000-year-old trees. I mean, it was just incredible. I got a different sense of like what's real, what's not,
Uh-huh.
true medicine
Uh-huh.
being served with integrity. And when I came
Uh,
back, I'm like, what is this life? I don't even know you.
mm. Oh,
Like,
right.
what
It's like a
is
whole,
this?
yeah, it's a whole different thing. You don't even recognize it. You have a different energy. So did you go, like, was it a retreat or like you went by yourself? Did you go with your
It
partner
was, no, it was a retreat. It was a
ah,
group that
a group
I
retreat?
decided to join because I
Oh,
saw it
okay.
being posted at the little crystal shop and yoga
That makes
center that I
sense.
went to.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh, I'm seeing this for a reason. Let's see if it aligns. And it did. And I was like, well,
Amazing.
I'm going. And so I got some, support. And my mom was kind enough to come out and help me with,
So your mom
with
come and helped you with
with my
with the kids.
children. Yes, from out of town. I didn't
Ah,
have any family in LA, so I didn't really have
yeah.
much of a support system there, but I created one through friends. So I
Mm-hmm.
went there. 2017 was the first time, and it changed everything. And it was like everything got revealed and sort of awakened to what's real,
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
divinely connected we are to the cosmos, and
Yes.
like how small this like little meat suit is, and how all this
Mm-hmm.
like the things we
Right?
think that we want, when you
I
strip
know.
all that away.
You just feel naked. So do you got in sit in any kind of plant medicine ceremony? Or is it
Yes,
like a
I sat with
sweat
several.
lodge? Oh,
I
okay.
went from 0 to 100. Like I said, it was I was
So you didn't
I did
know or you did? Like what was
nope.
you were you getting into?
I knew that I was sitting
Like,
with ayahuasca medicine, and I
ah,
just
okay.
had this like, again, this pull from my soul where I started
Mm,
trusting like what feels right. And when you start
mm,
feeling those little pulls, those, and everything aligns the way that it needs to, those are doors being opened, right? Towards your truth,
mm-hmm,
towards your highest alignment. And so, like I said,
mm-hmm.
when I went there, yes, I did have several sittings in, the 2 week period with
Oh, it's
ayahuasca,
2 weeks.
with, yes, and it was
Mm,
just a complete, we were so high up that I had to climb like a
mm.
tree to call my kids. It was
I know.
it
My
was
gosh.
not your like glamping
Oh
retreat.
wow.
I mean, I
Yeah.
was like treading through boiling water. Actually, it's a
Oh my
geothermal site that
gosh.
I go, and it's incredible. The water is warm, very mineral
Like a
rich.
test
Anyway,
too, kind of in a
it's
way.
remote. Yes, a
Yeah.
test a test to like to actually reach your destination. It was like
Mm-hmm.
those lands are protecting that
Right?
medicine. And so when you see
Mm,
the love and care that goes into these, how the communities are involved, how the children are watching, how they're all learning,
mm.
And so you see these, people
Oh
come
yeah,
to strip away everything that the kind of Western world teaches us is like what we're supposed to want. And they're
exactly.
so happy, just like, eating
Mm,
bananas from their local trees, and their air is so clean and
mm,
the water's so pure, and they just have deep
beautiful.
ties to the earth. And so you can, yeah, once you have
Life
those
changing.
experiences, I changed my life and I came back. That was the first huge seed that was planted. Like,
Okay. That
there's
was one of
just
the
no going
massive,
back.
yeah,
Yes,
one of your
there's
massive shifts for sure. Yeah.
no going
Well,
back.
once you open up, I mean, and that's some of the things about healing, right? Is like once we
Mhm.
open up that quote unquote can of worms or
Yeah.
peel the band aid off, like
Yes.
there's no going
There's no
back.
going.
And
You
then
can
you
never
can't even
unknow.
much you try.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, well, that's exciting. Um, so I won't go in too much into details because then we'll be on forever, but maybe another time we can, because I'd love to learn here about your experience. But what about, because I like that quote that you shared in your bio when you said, in your own dark night, right? Like, what do you feel like for the, or would you share, I would say, like for those moms who feel overwhelmed or anxious, disconnected, like, would you feel, what would you share to her if she's in her own dark night of the soul?
Absolutely. If I were to encounter someone, or if anyone has any kind of takeaways as to, um, as difficult as it might be, that dark night or those difficulties are not there to punish you. They're there to strip things
Mm,
away that don't align, to actually
mm,
truly reveal your path. So the suffering happens when we cling, when we're like, no, I don't really know, I can't, when everything is kind of ushered, like it's just about evolving and growing. There's just not, I mean,
right.
the only thing we can guarantee in this life is change. And
Mm,
so, but we cannot nudge or push someone into a place that they are
mm,
not ready to go to. And
yes.
so it's really about getting, the first thing is like getting curious with, right, what's going on, and
Curiosity.
also maybe shifting the perspective from why is all this happening
Mm,
to me to
mm-hmm,
what is this trying to show me, right? What is this
right.
trying to show me? am
Yeah.
i am I supposed to heal something? Am I supposed to leave this
Mm,
job? Maybe this relationship doesn't support my highest growth any longer.
mm,
And I totally
yes.
understand that there's a lot of fear in the unknown. So a lot of, especially women, with children, we think, oh man, like, what am I going to do? And so I
Right.
just tell people, start with what you can, where you can.
Mm-hmm.
Develop a support system, and maybe gather in community with other women. Find your tribe, your like-minded person. Ask questions not only to
Yes.
yourself but to others. Again, when the student is
Yeah.
ready, the teacher will appear. And when we host circles and we invite people to share, sometimes that sharing, let's
Mm-hmm.
say you shared something and someone's standing right next to you, and that was the
Right.
medicine that they needed that day. Maybe that will be the confidence and the push that they need
Mm-hmm.
to no longer allow
Mm-hmm.
mistreatment, or no longer
Mm-hmm.
allow your boss to undervalue you, or even as a mother,
Yeah.
sometimes we just feel like we have to just completely sacrifice everything. I understand the
Yep.
sacrifice some does come, right? But
Mm-hmm.
especially in the Latino community and
Yep.
among women, we feel we're on the back burner. And I'm like, oh man,
We're
that
following those
couldn't be
cycles.
further
Uh-huh.
from the truth. We have to pour into our work, our children, our family, our partnerships from a overflowing cup, right? Because then we get
Right.
resentful and tired, and we can't even
Yeah.
think about a solution from there.
Right. So how did you manage to, like, what helped you? Oh, I'm gonna go on that retreat. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. Like, how did you put yourself first? How did you like
Girl,
take charge to be like, no, okay.
because
Like, how
it,
did you
it was
shift
not
that?
something, yeah, it was not something that was common to me. It wasn't known. It was
Hmm.
foreign to be like, I'm going to do something for myself. It took me the longest
Right.
time to even
Yeah.
figure out, when you start kind of sharing custody or what have you, like,
Mm.
what am I supposed to do? I'm who
Oh
am I
yeah.
independent of, right? Just being their mom. And so
Mm.
yeah, it's
Mm.
starting to just kind of realize, like, oh, I'm a person too. I have dreams and
Hmm.
joys and things I'd like to accomplish, right? We
Yeah.
become better parents when we are expressing our highest truth, our creative
Hmm.
expressions. And so it helped me a lot.
Hmm.
One, to have a support system, and to find a little tribe where I'm like, okay, I feel understood. Like I feel
Yeah.
seen, and it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be crazy expensive retreats.
Mm-hmm.
There are,
Mm-hmm.
I know that at least the Noble House and at Sage, sometimes we'll have free classes, free workshops. And I
Hmm.
always tell people like money should never be a reason why you do not have
Right.
access to care, to
Right.
medicine, to whatever. So I always, if and when it's needed, I always work on a sliding scale. So the
Mm.
help is available. It's a matter of you
Yeah. I
taking the
love that.
first conscious step to say, okay, well,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
can no longer live like this.
Right.
So the
Yeah.
breakdown is not a failure. The breakdown's like an initiation. And so even if
Right.
it's like a little toe
Yes.
or like a little movement, or hey, maybe I'll journal today, even if I tear it up and burn it, at least I got something off my chest and onto a
Mm-hmm.
piece of paper. Because
Mm-hmm.
once you start being honest with yourself, again,
Yeah.
there is no going back. There's no unknowing.
Yeah. Exactly. What were those feelings that came up for you when you were like, how did you feel when that started happening, when you started to saying yes to yourself? Like, what emotions came out? Was there like, what's going on here? Like, just,
I was
what
like,
I feel like,
oh,
because it's something new,
it
It's like
was at
untraveled
first, yeah.
waters.
Yes, totally uncharted. At first I felt guilt and shame over it,
Mm.
and I really had to. And then this also came in circles of other women where destigmatizing and just really in talking to each other and communing, understanding that like it is okay to want to joy
Yeah.
and happiness, and from that space you can be a better parent even. And so I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, that sounds good. So
Mm.
the
Mm-hmm.
happier
That helped
I
you.
am, the happier my children are. And I even
Mm.
remember, I mean, my son was really young when I was going through divorce, and I remember the wisdom of my mother. If she was like, just please remember that, because I was still nursing at the time, kind of only at night,
Mm.
but she was
Mm-hmm.
like, don't feed him when you are feeling really sad or having heavy emotions. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so
Mm.
insightful and so wise.
Mm.
And so I remember being a little more conscious there of like, okay, what am I transferring, right? Because children are
Mm.
very
Yes,
observant. So the
intuitive
more,
too.
yes. So even though we try to hide or like cry in the shower,
Mhm.
those little
Mhm.
moments that you can actually fill your cup and fill your account
Oh yeah.
with
Yep.
good things, you have that to fall back on, to start feeling like, oh, maybe there are other like-minded people. Maybe there are other moms that feel
Mhm.
the same way. Maybe
Mm.
I can give myself permission, like I
Yeah.
can dare, to
Yeah.
dream beyond where I am now. But it really is,
Mhm.
and I'm telling you, like analysis paralysis can happen where you're
Oh
like
yeah, for
kind of
sure.
stuck between, and yeah, it's very real. So that
Yeah.
courage
Mm.
really comes from being honest and intentional,
Mhm.
and it's not easy. It's gonna be tough, but
Right.
guess what? It's tough also to. It's really tough to be
Staying in it.
unhappy and staying in the
Mhm.
muck, and it might
Mhm.
be uncomfortable for a while
Worse.
trying to align with your joy, but
Or
pick your heart.
feeling or like you're waiting for something to change, right?
Yes,
Um I I think it's really important. I like I talk a lot about curiosity, and I like that you
hmm
mentioned too. Like it's something so simple, but yet it's very like it can be very profound and have create lots of insights when we just ask questions, whether
yes,
it's in our own or just globally or like systems,
yes,
like anything, right? Is as asking questions. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Is like asking yourself those questions. Like that's a small step, like you mentioned, that could be a small step to helping us, you know, okay, what's serving me right now? What am I looking into the areas of your life, right? Relationship, your
yes.
nutrition, your lifestyle, your
Yes,
whatever,
what can
right?
I control, right?
Can
What
I
can
try?
I
Exactly.
change? And the
Mm-hmm.
living in the question of like, is this even mine? Maybe I was in a
Right.
group of people that, brought my energetic level down a little bit, and maybe
Mm.
noticing,
Mm-hmm.
getting like again, getting curious, noticing patterns. Does your chest
Mm-hmm.
or stomach feel tight when you're walking
Oh
into a
yeah.
job, or maybe you're waiting for your spouse to come home, like, that
Mm.
dread, paying attention to those things. The
Yes.
somatics are real.
Oh yeah, your body doesn't lie, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah. Oh
keeps the
yeah, I love
score,
that.
it keeps the information,
Yeah.
and the intuition's already there. We just have to kind of
Mm-hmm.
peel back the layers and really start
Yes.
trusting it, like trusting
Oh,
it
yeah. No, I
Mhm.
was just going to say that's a great segue because I was going to touch base on that. I wanted us to get into intuition now. So thank you for that nice little segue
Yeah.
there into the next segment. So let's get into that, into
Okay.
intuition. How do you define intuition for like, yeah, how would you define that?
It's like an inner compass and an inner knowing. That's
Mm-hmm.
what's really true, right? What's really true. The inner compass is there, the inner vision, inner knowing, the
Yeah.
inner wisdom, the inner medicine. It's already there. It's just a matter of
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily becoming a new person. It's about peeling layers back to remembering, like, oh, yeah. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
wait, I do have the right to be free and right and
Yeah.
sovereign and um joyful and love and aligned to those things. And it's not being blind to life's daily
Right.
stresses or the, what do they call it? The toxic positivity or no, but it's a
Mm-hmm.
decision and a choice to listen to the whispers inside because they're there, and instead of
Right.
making logic of it, starting to notice, how does my body feel? Let maybe
Mm.
ask it a yes or no question, and how does that
Yeah.
land in my body and my nervous system? Does it
Yeah.
feel good or does it feel bad? Like, that's why we get butterflies in our
Ah,
stomach, or
right.
those are all intuitions. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and again, hindsight's 2020, when later on you're like, I should have listened to myself. I knew that,
Mm.
and so when we start acknowledging that we're going to follow our intuition, our intuition that's true, not out of fear, but our true
Mm-hmm.
inner compass, the voice starts getting louder
Yes.
and it starts getting more clear to where I'm not even going to question it. It's like
Right. It's
a
too loud.
full on yes from my nervous system,
Yeah.
or is a no.
Right. Yeah. So on that note, like, what do you remember about what helped you to strengthen? I mean, it was like going out into, the plant ceremonies and the healing modalities you were being introduced to. That maybe that could have helped connect you to your intuition, right? Because you're also doing the
Sure.
healing work. What else do you think helped you to strengthen that connection with your intuition? Especially as a single mom and you've got busy with all the
Yes.
things in our head. Like I know for me, my head's
Yes.
always in like my kids and stuff. So
Mhm.
what helped you with that? Yeah.
Stillness. I always tell
Mm.
people stillness it's an active process, actually.
Yeah.
It's not
It is.
passive. A stillness is when you can allow yourself to
Mm.
just be and just sense and just
Mhm.
be in stillness and allow the space for answers to come, for,
Yes.
through the antenna. Stillness. And stillness is
Right.
not the same as doing nothing. They're very different. Doing nothing is passive.
Yeah.
Stillness is an active process where you're just allowing, right? The world can be, you can even hear sound, sirens, whatever it is, but you are
Hmm.
just still enough to allow that to come through. That's when it really
Yes.
comes through, is when we can sit for
Mm.
a moment in that stillness. And then again, the voice will start getting louder and louder to where you can hear it anywhere or feel it, in any decision. When you're asked a question,
Mm.
boom, your intuition's going to tell you. And so, yeah,
Mm.
that's definitely a really, really great way. Um, Meditation is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Sun gazing is something I used to do a lot, like
Mm.
first thing in the morning and in the
Oh, me
evening. That
too.
really helps your pineal
Yes.
gland, your circadian rhythm. Um,
That's been powerful for
Mineral
me.
rich foods, chlorophyll rich, like lots of greens. Those are all really good too.
Mm.
So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when we're starting to remove a lot of the
Oh,
toxins
yeah.
that muddle, that create a lot of, static
Yes.
around us, or getting out into nature every once in a while, wherever
Right.
you can,
Yeah.
even if it's your local
Yes.
park, walk barefoot there, get
Yes.
connected to nature.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you can definitely connect with your intuition as well, but you can do it at home. I
Right.
mean, I had to
Yeah.
find pockets, don't get me wrong. Hey, if
Right.
you have to start getting
Yes.
up earlier, you have to start getting up a few minutes earlier, but that was my sacred
Hmm.
divine time before the kids were up, where I could just sit with myself and have a slower morning and
Right.
regulate, so that when they did rise, I was already settled. I did my practice. I poured into myself. And
Hmm.
then from an overflowing cup, that's when I could pour into my children as well, and into my
Right.
work and the day. And so that really
Right.
helped me also. Like,
Mm.
when you have one foot in and out of the
Hmm.
door, like teetering through two different worlds, the corporate world and the, the natural
Right.
world, or the where I was going. it really helped me sustain the gratitude of having security. But in the process, I already knew the intuition was calling me, like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it's calling me to work with it." So what, like I
Mm.
said, it doesn't have to be a full jump in where you completely lose your identity
Hmm.
before. You can also take steps, start taking
Yeah.
classes while you still have your job, right? Start like
Mm.
saving money if you're afraid of,
Yes.
leaving somewhere and not having anything. So there are things that we definitely can do: books, classes, gatherings. Like when we gather together, especially as women, it's so
Yes.
powerful because society so often
Chance.
wants to tear us apart. And when we
Yep.
come together, we we have each one of us carries medicine, and imagine bringing it all
Mm.
together into one room and sharing. It's like, it is, that's why in history so
Wisdom.
often,
Yeah.
yes, it's wisdom. It's
That's what it
wisdom.
is.
For
Yeah.
sure. And so,
Yeah.
yes, by all
I
means. I
love
mean,
that.
if you are in, this city, the Noble House's doors are always welcome. I know you offer some wonderful modalities. It's growing. There's also information online, but
Oh yeah.
absolutely stillness and learning to
Mm.
discern your
Mm-hmm.
true voice and your inner compass from
Mm-hmm.
like logic or what people think you should do or what, right? Just
Right.
discernment. Discernment is really important.
What do
And
you
by getting
think?
curious,
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say, by getting curious and asking the questions like, how do I
Mm.
feel after I get together with this
Okay.
friend? Is
Yeah.
this a give and take energy exchange, or am I feeling
Mm.
depleted, right? Is this job what I
Yes.
truly want to do? I always tell people,
That's
start
helpful.
with, yes,
Yes.
if we're talking jobs, right? Start with, what are your gifts? What are your gifts?
Mm-hmm.
What are your natural gifts? Because people often are like, I know I don't want to be doing this, but
Mm-hmm.
they're stuck. Like, I don't know what to do. We all
Right.
have gifts, all of us,
Yep.
natural, innate gifts, and things that could be your hobby or whatever it is. Like, start with
Mm-hmm.
that. When you have more joy and you feel like you're expressing yourself creatively, that will
Right.
continue giving you momentum moving forward. So, if you like to paint, maybe do you like to write, do the
Mm-hmm.
thing, because that's going to help give you a voice and give the
Right.
flow and creative freedom and expression to you.
Yes.
And once you start expressing yourself, again, there really isn't any going back.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that. It's like you're just kind of little by little building on that too at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, and it's
Sure.
expanding and more strengthening that connection. Why do you think so many of us, especially as moms, lose touch with our inner compass, with our intuition? Or if it sounds, we don't know. Like if someone would say, I don't know what my intuition is. I don't know how to choose from my
Mm-hmm.
intuition. Like why do you think that is?
You know, that it's a tricky one because while our children are incredible and we're portals right from one world to the other, I have realized my children have a big age gap between them too, and I feel like I learned a lot in between then, and I feel like that when we realize that our children come through us, but they're not ours. They have a journey of their own. So
Mm-hmm.
we definitely should give them guidance. But I see this often with my clients, or, in women's circles. I see, women like tending towards like middle age, or, once the kids go to school, they're like, well, what do I do? Like, who am I? So
Mm-hmm. That
they've been
identity
pouring,
shift.
exactly. They don't really even remember who they are because everything has been
Oh
poured
my
into
gosh,
maybe
yes.
their partner, maybe their children, and like, I don't matter. I'm on the back burner. And I don't really even know, right, what I want or who I am. And so that's why a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people find themselves in, middle age, or when the kids go to school,
Oh
like,
yeah. Lost.
sometimes they get sick even, right, or
Yeah.
resentful, or they get like
Depressed.
angry,
Or
depressed, yes,
mm-hmm.
because that can happen as a result of
Yeah.
really ignoring your like true
Mm-hmm.
voice. and um
Mm-hmm.
and so we think we're doing it for the right reasons, right? Well, okay, well, I'll just do all this until they get older, but in the process you've
Yeah.
been right. So a lot of times women will get resentful or even sick or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It's never too late to reinvent yourself, to start something
Oh
new.
yeah.
So when people say, "Oh, well,
Exactly.
this is it," like, no, it absolutely doesn't have to be. We can rewrite our
Exactly.
story
Yes.
anytime we decide
Anytime.
that it's not the one for you any longer, and shift
Mm-hmm.
and pivot. And so I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying to, be resentful. I love pouring into my children in their cups, but I also remember like when I
Mm-hmm.
realized like, oh my gosh, they do have their own journey, and I
Mm.
also have a right to express myself and build
Right.
something that I can be proud of. Because
Mm-hmm.
again, the more that we are feeling aligned and
Right.
fulfilled, the better parents we can be. And
Yeah. No, I
our
totally
happiness
agree with
isn't
that.
tied into how my kids are treating me, how they're doing in school, right? That's
Right.
external
Your worth and
validation.
our self-worth
Yes,
too. Yeah.
exactly.
I
Yes.
totally agree. How are you teaching your kids differently, or like maybe you can kind of share whether it's like practices, rituals, or conversations, like values, things that you're trying to do differently or instill in your children. What maybe you can kind of share a little bit about like how you've been doing that as your children have been aging, and yeah.
I think the most important lesson that I am trying to teach my children, one, is how to regulate their nervous systems and how, like,
Mm-hmm.
don't drown in a glass of water. Like everything's figure outable. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, let's see. Let's take
Yeah.
what do you have? What's the
Yes.
challenge that you have going through? Yeah, that sucks, but okay. So how
Mm-hmm.
are you going to handle that? Instead of, as we see
Mm-hmm.
often when we have like tough childhoods, we
Spirals.
want to we want to just pad the walls for the kids and
Oh
just
yeah.
not let anything bad happen to them. And while we do want
Mm-hmm.
to guide them and protect them, there's also kind of, where we can hinder their growth by making things too comfortable for them. So one,
Enabling. Yeah.
yes, enabling. I don't try to make like too like easy or comfortable. Like they are very
Mm-hmm.
capable of one,
Mm-hmm.
learning life skills. They're very capable of, cleaning their own rooms, of contributing to the household with
Mm-hmm.
like chores and things where
Mm.
we all pitch in. We all live in the home,
Mm-hmm.
we all consume, and we all, right? We're all gonna help each other.
Yes.
And then also like when they
Yeah.
have problems, oh, so what do you think about that? How do you think you're going to fix that?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm.
Giving it back to them and saying like, well,
Mm-hmm.
how would you
Mm-hmm.
handle that, instead of tell me what to
Yeah.
do? Because then we
Right.
raise kids that have no idea when they're out in the world
And
how to problem solve,
they're
how to
not
maneuver
independent.
them exactly, and they're
Lack
not
of problem
truly
solving.
independent. I'm seeing that
Mm-hmm.
a lot as
Oh
well. That
yeah.
older kids they're like,
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm comfortable. And while that's great, if
Yeah.
that's your choice,
Yeah.
right, to save money and things like that, that's
Yes.
great. They
Yeah.
also have a big world to explore and their own gifts
Yep.
to share. And
I
so
know. They
so
do.
yes, so nervous system regulation, emotional regulation, and also that they're limitless. Like it's
Mm.
your life, not mine.
It's
Me projecting the life I want for you. Like,
mm-hmm.
what are you gonna do? That's exciting. You're limitless. You can do
Yeah.
anything,
Like
anything you
instilling what's
want.
possible. Like the possibilities
Yes.
are limitless,
They're
right?
limitless.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
like, great, wonderful. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to take the path I took or dad took or
Right.
whatever. You can
Yeah.
carve your own path. Says
Yeah.
who, right? And there are no
Right.
rules. So I do try to
Mm.
drive home like
Mm-hmm.
you're very capable, anything is
Yeah.
possible, and you can you're co-creating. So if you don't like the story that
Right.
you're living, change the story.
Rewrite it.
Rewrite
Yeah.
it. Rewrite
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. You know what? Like, because just with you sharing that, like, there's a lot of conversation happening with your
Hmm.
children. And that's where it starts, truly, is
Yes.
communication.
Yes.
And, like myself, I wasn't, I'm sure a lot of other sisters and mothers out there, our friends listening, are feeling the same. We were not
Hmm.
raised in an open, communicative environment.
Yes.
And, that's part of the healing journey,
So
is
we
to
learn to.
understanding,
Mhm.
they weren't exposed to that either, meaning whoever we were raised by, right? Whether it's our parents or
Yes.
caregivers, whoever.
Mhm.
And so it all goes back to, like, I feel like once we're starting on this journey and we want to get angry and we want to blame them, well, they didn't teach
Mhm.
me this and they didn't teach
Yes.
me that, or it's a habit I took from them. It's
Mhm.
really like, oh, once you see past that, that's a generation to generation, and you go back to
Yes.
where it originally started,
Mhm.
right? With, the school
Mhm.
systems, the way the school systems were put together. And you got to be
Yes.
obedient and do not, overpower authority. If you cannot speak up, you got to be the good girl. You got to do this and that. And so, they were not taught to have a conversation. Something's bothering you? Oh, what's wrong? Or tell me what
Yes.
happened today. Or, any conversation. It was really just like they were in survival mode, trying to
Yes.
get food on the table, trying just like we were. But now,
Mhm.
like, we're changing those dynamics to
Yes.
be more awake, be more intentional, right? And awareness to break those cycles so that way they have a different path, right? And
Yes,
then,
and that's where it comes in,
mhm.
where we as adults actually can reparent ourselves.
Oh yeah,
Our parents,
for
most
sure.
of the time, they're operating from their level of awareness where they
Yes.
probably had things happen, and that's why they operated in the way they did. Again, not excusing, things, just
Mm-hmm.
from a level of understanding, right? Just an
Mm-hmm.
observer, a third party.
Mm-hmm.
But then we have the ability to bring that little girl, little boy self and be like, hey, I'm with
Yeah.
you now. Like, I'm with you now. We made it. And let's, right, we're okay. We're
Mm-hmm.
no longer in that state where I'm with you. You're right here with me. So,
Yeah.
reparenting ourselves so that we can be a different
Yes.
type of parent to to our children, to be present, especially in the age of
Exactly.
technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
The instant
In our
gratification of
modern
the
day.
phone, the I'm
Mm.
not, unaware that those
Yeah.
things are there,
Yeah.
but it gave me so much joy watching the kids throw the football around yesterday, and we were throwing a ball around in the backyard, enjoying the sun, and
Mm.
they're riding their e-bikes or whatever scooters outside. I'm like, that's just, some kind of balance so that you're spending time, or maybe you're talking,
Yeah.
asking questions, and
Right.
like I said, also giving it back to them, like, well, what do you feel about that? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And giving
Yeah.
them the
What do you
space
think?
to
Or what do you
actually,
feel? Yeah,
exactly. What
exactly.
do you think?
Get their own, brain, their own thought process, beliefs going on. Yeah.
Yes,
We try to
it'll
do that
give
with
them
my son too.
agency over themselves for sure. Like, what do
Mm-hmm.
you think about that?
Oh
How would you
yeah.
handle that? What do you think
Oh
are some
yeah.
good solutions? And even sometimes
Yeah.
after the fact, right? Maybe you had a rough
Yeah.
morning, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I would have liked to have done that different. That's one of the
Mm-hmm.
things. My son's an Aries. He's a fiery little guy,
Mm.
but
My
I'm like,
daughters are.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
we'll come back to it. And I'm like, okay, so how could you have handled that differently?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that, like reenacting it with
Yes.
them, gives them a different perspective.
I
Like,
love that.
"Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
could have," like, and
Right.
then it
Yes. That's
brings
a
awareness to
very,
them, like, hey, yeah,
yep.
mm,
It's a
there's a
very
different way to handle things.
massive, change in our parenting and providing these really surviving like life skills of managing our
Yes.
thoughts. It's your brain, limiting, beliefs and things like that, and how to overpower them with reframing and how to,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
separate yourself from those kinds of things. And, that's like, that'll be something. If we're teaching them nervous system regulation, managing their thoughts,
Yes. Can you
ritual,
imagine?
spirituality,
Shh.
connection, like they're gonna be, it's gonna be a beautiful earth. It's helpful.
My
Like that's what we're
gosh,
teaching them.
yes, please. Can I teach that in schools?
Right?
I've
I
had some
know.
schools that, invite me to come do like some
Mm,
either nervous system regulation or sound therapy. And I'm like, yes,
mm-hmm.
I'd love
That's
to. The
nice.
more
That's what we need to
kids,
be.
the
Yes, that's what
earlier
the
and younger
curriculums
they can
need.
learn. Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
and that's what they need. They don't need this memorize XYZ, they
Yeah,
don't
and
need
they're
that.
not built
So,
or meant to sit there for
mm-mm.
such long
No,
periods of
no.
time. It
Oh my
suppresses
God,
their
no.
creativity. And so, yeah,
Yes.
movement is
There's a
really
lot.
important these days. Movement,
Yes,
any day.
exactly. There's so much that I would go into about system in the schools and everything, but I won't get into that today.
Yeah.
But
But we can have conversations about
yes,
like interesting
conversation.
things at home to supplement, right? What
Right.
they're learning. Those are ways
Right.
we
Yeah.
can
What are you learning in
contribute.
school and what can we
Mm-hmm.
do for here at home? Yeah. And
Yes.
kind of one thing that I like to do is when I'm asking my son about like, I remember when because he used to go to Montessori and he's new to the big
Oh,
schools, the public schools.
yes.
And so the
Mm-hmm.
behavior chart is something he didn't have in Montessori. And so, I had
Mm.
to have a conversation to him about that. I'm like, son, this doesn't mean anything about you. Or even when he gets
Right.
hundreds and this, I'm like, this grade doesn't mean that you could get this, and it doesn't mean anything about you. Like, we still love you no matter what. You're still
Mm-hmm.
this, and this, and this, And so I'm always like, me and my husband are always constantly reminding him, this is just
Kids are
things
brilliant in their
created
own
in
ways.
school.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean
of
anything about you,
course.
So I always have
Mm-hmm.
to remind him of that. Mm-hmm.
That's a good
Kind of
reminder. I
moving
tell
on.
the kids those tests don't they
Yeah.
don't gather
Oh my
how
God.
amazing and intelligent you guys are, but you gotta
Those,
take them, whatever.
right? What about like rituals? Are there any particular maybe sharing like your go-to rituals that you kind of like are your non-negotiables that you practice on a regular basis, or maybe when you're feeling a certain way that you can share?
Well, I am the type of person that realized that like slow mornings or my alone recharge time is
Mm,
essential to me, especially in
same
in
here.
the work that I do, and to be able to show up
Oh
as,
yeah.
the best version of myself in different hats that I wear. that
Mm-hmm.
like self-care and just that alone time to just, oh, maybe I want to sit in the sun that day and read a
Right.
book. I'm so grateful that I have a partner also that understands, because I'm a walking boundary of like, I need my space and time to, maybe I need self-care. Sometimes he'll draw the bath for me and add the salt. It's so nice. But like something like a salt bath, that's a wonderful way
Mm-hmm.
to just, not only does it really help detoxify the
Mm-hmm.
body, but it just slows things down. I play some music or lighting a
Mm-hmm.
candle. Meditation is a non-negotiable for me. Absorbing the
Mm-hmm.
sun. Like, we
Oh,
gotta all
yes.
find rituals that work for us. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
is one, movement and
Oh, yeah.
gratitude in the morning. So I always start my morning
Yeah.
grateful, then I'll do some Tai Chi, Qigong, some movements to get my like
Mm-hmm. Your
circulation, my
prana.
energy
Get
going, the
first going.
prana moving. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
but always starting grateful and sort of doing my
Yes.
exercises to regulate my nervous system so that I can rise in the day in with clarity and more, centeredness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my morning
Yes.
ritual is a
Stability.
non-negotiable for me. That's why I like getting up before
Same
everybody
here.
else. And some people are not
Yeah.
morning people, but you can train
Right.
yourself. You
Yeah.
can retrain yourself. You
You
literally have
can.
access to more of the day when you do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's a reason why billionaires and millionaires, they swear by it, because they can really have that time to invest
Mm-hmm.
into themselves. So when, let's say, for example, there are moms that say like, well, I don't have time. I know that
Mm-hmm.
you're, might be tired,
Yeah.
but let's say, for example, you were to wake up earlier and start doing movement practices and gratitude practices, something where you're pouring into yourself. Guess
Yes.
what? You're going to start getting more energy. You're going to start feeling
Right.
better about yourself. And
Right.
so it's just the discipline really outweighs the
Discipline.
motivation. We're not always going to
Mm-hmm.
have the motivation, but at least if you can
Right.
just do a little bit for yourself, then
Right.
you can pour into yourself, and then you can show up in the
Mm-hmm.
world as
Yeah.
best you can, as a mother, as a partner, as a,
Yes.
out in the world in
Mm-hmm.
business.
Yeah, no, I agree. Oftentimes when I'm working with clients and they'll just say, oh, I don't have the discipline to get up earlier. I don't have the discipline to this, or I don't have the
Mm-hmm.
dedication. These
Mm-hmm.
limiting beliefs. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yes.
Let's start with
Yes.
that first. Let's unpack that.
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yes.
it's not that you're not disciplined. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
what you've been taught, over time.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of just going into some coaching about
Yes. Mm-hmm.
these thoughts that aren't yours, and so
Yes.
kind of giving them that possibility of like, this is, you can change that narrative, right? Like we were talking about
Yes.
rewriting your own story.
Absolutely.
So
It
coming into
literally, it's so
awareness.
funny.
Mm-hmm.
I called
Yeah.
my son the other day, and I would tell my kids all the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, guess what today is? And they're like, what? Well, now they're used to it. And like, oh my gosh, it's the first day of the rest of your life. Because guess what? You get to decide that today I'm no longer a procrastinator, literally,
Yeah.
and take
Right. I love that.
one active step every day. So, like, all right, I'm going to set my alarm 20 minutes earlier and 20
Mm,
minutes earlier, not hit
I love
snooze.
that.
And it does take 21 days to develop a new habit. So, if you can
Yeah.
even just for 21 days not snooze and set that, right, set that discipline, because the time's
Mm-hmm.
going to pass anyway. So,
Mm-hmm.
we also have to kind of,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I always, it's like tough love, I guess, but I always hand the baton
Right.
back to the person and say, what you do with it now is
Mm-hmm.
right. It's your decision,
Mm-hmm.
because we have free
Mm-hmm.
will. And
Yeah.
so it's really
Sometimes
it
it
comes
is that
down to
tough
a
love
decision.
sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Decision. And, I think too, it's like that. How can you say, there's just like a fire in there,
Yes.
like, okay, I can do this. It's gonna be hard, but like I need this and I'm gonna do it
Hmm.
anyway, right? And yeah, it does take time to build that discipline and dedication. But I love that, like, okay, who am I gonna be today? Or like, what are you gonna do differently? Just kind of, it didn't
Yes.
happen today, tomorrow. We're gonna start again. We're gonna start
Exactly,
again,
exactly. It's
and
a
just changing
brand
that
new
frame of
day. Instead of
thinking.
punishing yourself, oh, never mind, I'll just stop because I only did 1 week. All right, cool, let's get back into it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be, like I said, a huge shift in your life. Hey, maybe start with taking one class. Maybe start with,
Mm,
right, having a new conversation with one person. Hey, maybe read
yes.
that book, right? So
Yeah.
we have so much accessible to us that honestly, like, there's an infinite. infinite amount of resources for us, free.
Hmm.
It's always best in person sound healing, but hey, there's sound healing on YouTube,
Oh,
there's meditation,
yes.
there's
Then we have
breath
so many
work, there's
resources out there.
so many
Yes,
free
for
resources that we
sure.
have available. And I always tell people,
Hmm.
your breath is free. That's the first thing
Right?
we
I
do
would
when
say
we
that too.
arrive in this world. Breathe.
Yeah,
Just breathe.
exactly. And we're just not taught to breathe. That's another thing.
Oh,
We're not taught, right? You
no,
literally have to
you're
learn how to
not.
do that.
Yes,
Yeah,
we have to
I
retrain
know.
ourselves how
Hmm.
to actually breathe intentionally,
Mm.
because the breath is also an automatic process. You don't have to think about it. You're literally
Hmm.
still breathing. When you're
Exactly.
asleep, what's breathing you? Like,
Right.
what is it? So then when you start getting
Exactly.
conscious in the breath, that's when you can that's when you can start, right? Breathing in one
Hmm.
color, exhaling a different one, maybe breathing in an
Mm.
intention. There
And getting
are
that
we
vision
do
too.
on Thursday nights
Sure.
here breath work, somatic exercise,
Oh
and
yeah.
sound healing class at 6:30 p.m. at the Nova House. But like I said, there's also free tools online on YouTube.
Yes, there's just so many resources, which kind of ties in really nicely with like talking a little bit about the Noble House, right? And Sage Holistic Wellness. Kind of if you can kind of go back, like how did you create that vision, or like how did that kind of come together?
I think it
Yeah.
was because I remember my journey and being like, I
Mm.
just where like I'm just searching if there was just a place that had everything,
Oh.
or that I just like where I could explore more. So I think it was born from that and from an intention to be
Mm.
in service in different ways and just meet people where they are, right? Not everyone's gonna want to jump into combo, but hey, maybe
Mm-hmm.
they'll be okay being introduced to nervous system regulation or maybe a
Mm-hmm.
body work session. 'Cause there's you
Mm-hmm.
also have to again meet people where they are
Mm-hmm.
and what resonates with them. So it was really
Mm.
that. It was cultivating a space where the most important thing is that they feel seen and heard and witnessed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we can go throughout our entire lives and never really feel seen,
Yes.
or understood or connected. And so that's
Yeah.
the intention behind this place. And, most people tell me, especially when they start coming more than once, that as soon as they park, they're like, oh, I can unzip my meat suit. I can just be my weird self or my true self. It's the
Yeah.
best feeling to know that
Mm.
this is a space where people can just take off the world and
Mm.
like I can just be,
Breathe.
not be something
Yeah.
I'm not. I can just breathe. I
Exactly.
feel seen, right? I feel
Mm-hmm.
met. And it's not no one's trying to fix me. I'm just trying to witness you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of hold
Mm-hmm.
space
Mm-hmm.
for what it is you're ready to unpack or whatever it is that,
Yeah.
morsel of wisdom or information, because I don't believe in any accidents. So whoever walks through the door,
Mm-hmm.
they were meant to, and
Right.
hopefully take away something that resonates with you. So
Yeah.
that's the reason why it was for sure created, and it's like a live, collaboration and an
Mm.
ecosystem. Because upstairs there's a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine who does acupuncture and all dry needling, and then there's also a therapy group where they do more like clinical based therapy, but they also do EMDR. So the whole intention behind the building as a whole was exactly that, to provide kind
Mm-hmm.
of an ecosystem where we say like, oh, you know what, I think my client could really
Holistic for
complement
sure.
this.
Yeah.
Yes, it's all it complements they complement each other in different
Mm-hmm.
ways. And just
Mm-hmm.
understanding, like for example, understanding that hey, maybe something needs to be worked on the mind first, and now elevator down, maybe I
Mm.
can work on it in the body, right? We're so
Right. Yeah.
so that was the idea behind
Mm.
it, and to
I
provide
love
like
that.
events and workshops, places where and spaces where people could come together and
Mm.
explore, where maybe they feel taboo in other places, or I can't really talk
Yeah.
about this stuff with anybody else, and they're like, you're gonna think I'm weird. I'm like, you're in the right
Really?
place.
Yeah. You're
You're in the right.
exactly.
Ding,
And
ding,
that's talk
ding.
about like finding, your tribe, what they say, or that community
Yes,
where you feel like you can have those conversations and feel,
yes,
heard and like
yes,
seen and related to. And
yes.
I love that's very important. And that's also something that I've been working on intentionally the past year or two or so, is cultivating those relationships, putting myself out there, going to events even by myself,
Yeah.
which I've never done before,
Yes.
and
Oh my
doing
gosh.
that.
And may I just briefly tap into that? I'm like, oh my gosh, we are going to be our own, like our company. We are going to be with
Mm.
us for the rest of our lives. May as well make
Yes.
us, our best friend. I'm like, girl, you're
Right?
the next day. Oh, let's go to lunch. Where do you want to go? It's
Right?
becoming your own ally, like our, especially our
Yes.
mind. It can be
I
our
love
ally
that.
or our worst enemy, right? When
Mm-hmm.
and I meet many women that are like, oh my gosh, you're going to lunch by yourself.
Oh.
I'm like, yeah, I'm fun. Like, I want to have a good time, and I provide it.
Right? I love that. Bring some
Relation
fun into it and
it
pleasure
does take
and
some practice
joy. It
for people
does.
because they're like feel
Not
exposed. You're
used
like,
to it.
I have to
Scared.
be right. I have to be busy with someone else because then I'll
Mm.
feel exposed. And it's
Yeah.
sitting in that
I love that.
discomfort, sitting in that discomfort, go on that trip by
Mm.
yourself, go take yourself to
Mm.
lunch, right? Be in that
Yeah.
little void, that discomfort where you start discovering yourself, like where you people watching. It's so
I
interesting,
love
and
that.
you just like are there just having fun with your best friend. But
Yeah, I
it
love
takes
that.
work. It
Yeah, it
takes work.
does. It
Hmm.
does. Being uncomfortable and
Yes.
well, starting to get comfortable with that uncomfortable of like being by
Yes.
yourself, right? Yeah, I totally get
Oh.
that. Um,
But now I'm
and
like, oh my gosh, I think I like being by myself.
more. It's hard. It is hard trying to find, people you feel in alignment and comfortable with and kind of equal giving and
Hmm.
receiving and in a relationship and a
It's so
friendship.
good.
It's
Yeah.
really hard to find that these days,
Yeah. And you know
especially
what?
in
I think
our.
it's
Mhm.
for sure. And I think it's important also, like, one of the things I try to do is never like make a friend feel bad because they haven't called me. I'm
Mhm.
like, hey, I
Right.
know you have stuff going on.
Stuff
We
going,
get
not taking
together
it
when we can.
personally.
Exactly. I don't take it
Mhm.
personal. I'm like, don't worry
Yeah.
about me.
Same here.
At least in me, I'm not going to be judging you because things came up or
Yeah.
whatever. Just, I always try to
Right.
set the tone with my friends. Like, do not spread yourself thin. We will come
Mhm.
together when it aligns. No worries, right? No
Yeah.
worries, no pressure, no judgment. And that also
Mhm.
helps you keep alignment. When you're
Yeah.
aligned with someone, it's gonna happen. And when you're not
Exactly.
aligned, you'll start seeing like just as
Oh.
the things just can't align and they're just like
Yeah.
always something gets in the way.
Mhm.
That's also sometimes
A sign.
a redirection. Yeah, a sign to like, hey,
Yeah.
maybe you're not in alignment right now or any
Yeah,
longer.
that was gonna be my next question on my last one because I think you bring it up because it's another nice segue.
We're right here.
And you're going right on top of it. You're reading my mind. You have access to my interview questions here. If a mom feels stuck in survival mode, right? Because I know there's a lot of us, especially
Yes.
early in like
Yes.
postpartum, or even just
Yes.
maybe you got a life changing and you got separated and you're like
Yes.
single
Yeah.
parent, right?
Mhm.
What is the first step that our sisters out there or mothers listening today that can take that first initial step towards their own alignment? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up because I do remember just feeling so alone with all that I was processing. And we don't have to heal alone. We can come together in circle. And I always in my case anyway, I always encourage like bring your kids. Like let's get them involved too. Or, you know, just the most important thing is to start unpacking just little by little. Start unpacking maybe one feeling a day or one thing that you really want to suppress, or maybe you want to because this can happen a lot of the times where you just like don't want to deal with it, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
we start drinking or whatever it is, and to each their own.
Mm-hmm.
It all has its place in the play. But
Coping.
when we coping mechanisms, exactly. And so I think that when you just realize that you don't have to heal alone, that
Mm.
there are resources and people out there, and other women, especially, when let's say we've dragged ourselves through the out of the underworld, or we've crossed to the other side, like we definitely want to be like a torch that can light the torch for
Mm.
another.
I like
So
that.
check in on your friends, especially the strong ones that you think, oh, she's got it, she's always so strong, she always
Right.
holds it together. That's probably the one that's like, I feel so
Mm-hmm.
alone because I'm always supporting
Right.
everybody else. So yeah,
Exactly.
you definitely can feel isolated. But I would say that would be the first step, to get out there
I love that.
and really. in community and join a circle, or, join a conversation. Do
Mm-hmm.
not have to hold it or carry it alone. If you're in my city, my doors are open, to you, and
Yeah,
I'm sure yours are also. But yeah, that's definitely what
I
I would
love
say
that.
is you don't have to carry it alone. You don't have to heal
Mm,
alone. You are not alone.
mm-hmm.
There's always somebody willing to, at the very least, listen.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that's something that we all need to hear sometimes is like we do often feel like we're alone or we don't know where to begin or where to start. And sometimes even just, even, I mean, social media, right, can be a blessing, but also like a curse at the same time. But
Yes,
it can lead us
yes,
to
yes,
those people that or events or things happening. And like you said, it'll appear when
yes.
we're being called to it, right? And just kind of
Yes,
leaning into the intuition with those signs,
absolutely.
right?
Yes, get curious about your patterns.
Yes.
Start getting honest with yourself. That's where it
Mm,
really starts.
yeah.
If maybe you're feeling shy to share it with another, be honest with yourself. That's
Yeah.
a
Thank you so
super
much.
important conversation. We have to be honest with ourselves. Like, I'm not happy. Even if it's
Mm,
just that, I'm not happy.
yeah.
What can I do to change that
What
story?
can
I'm
do?
not happy. Get curious.
Exactly.
Know where your
Yeah.
patterns are and how am I showing up here? Am I
Mm,
contributing, right?
mm,
What are my
mm,
upbringing or trauma or whatever? How is that clouding my life now? How is that showing up?
mm.
Patterns. It's really important for us to notice them in others, but
Yes.
most importantly in ourselves. But
Mm-hmm.
definitely, it doesn't have to be alone, for sure.
Right. Yeah. So getting curious, also seeing the possibilities and that we can
Yes.
rewrite our story. Yeah, I love that.
Yes, we're
Thank you so much for
co-creating. Yeah, we're
Yes.
co-creating. Life's not happening to us. We are co-creating. So that's the first
Yes.
indication is we're
Mm,
co-creating that, oh, I can change this because I'm an editor as well. I'm like, I have access to the right
yeah.
to the
Seeing in
to
a
the
different perspective. Yeah. I
yes.
love that. And it makes it a bit
Yes.
more, kind of lighter or just kind of eases
Yes.
the like kind of the edge, like take some of the
Yeah.
edge off, right? When you shift your
Yeah.
perspective for
It
sure.
does. It shifts the perspective, but then, it helps us definitely to get honest with ourselves. But in order
Mm,
to even like get clarity and start getting honest, definitely the number one step would be to find what works for you to regulate your nervous
mm,
system and find what coping skills that are healthy to
yeah.
override maybe or take on or replace maybe a not so healthy coping mechanism,
Mm,
could food, whatever it is, relationship,
yeah.
overworking
Exactly.
even, right? So some a
Start
healthy
little by
that can
little.
replace it. Yeah, small
Mm,
steps because
small
eventually
steps.
they create big change, right? Time's gonna
Exactly.
pass. Time's gonna pass
Yes.
anyway. May as well,
Yeah.
bet on yourself for sure.
For sure. Yeah, I see like what I tell a lot of my clients is like when we start on one area of our health and we start working towards that and we
Yes.
liberate some of that toxic or tension or whatever
Yes.
that was not in alignment, we liberate that. And then that creates
Yes.
more energy and space to see something else that maybe is not in alignment. And then
Yes.
we work on that,
Yes.
right? Taking those little things one at a time adds up over time, right?
Absolutely. And that's
So
when
be
we really talk about a holistic view, when you zoom out and look at a
mm-hmm.
holistic view of life. So it's like
Yes.
different houses that you're right that you're addressing. So if you're addressing the
Yeah.
health house, naturally you're gonna want to
Yeah.
address, well, how else can I, right, in improve the quality of my life, of my existence, of this earth school. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, maybe
Oh
like,
yeah.
I want to learn more. Maybe you know what, maybe I need to cut out some toxic friendships or that are just not in alignment any longer. And it's
Mm-hmm.
all because internally our soul wants to evolve. We want to evolve, we want
Right.
to grow into our highest expression.
Yes.
Yeah,
Of
that's how we
ourselves.
honor ourselves and our life is
Yeah.
by truly living, not surviving, to shift out
Right.
of survival and truly, truly live.
Yeah. And then it takes years, it's a lifetime, basically. A lifetime of evolving for sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, Norma. Sorry, everybody, if you can hear my daughter screaming in the background. I don't know if you can or not.
She's got things to say. Like,
Because I'm
excuse
hearing her loud and clear right now. She's unhappy about something. I don't know what
me.
it
She's
is,
like,
but
I have things to say.
she's like right in the hallway where I'm recording. So she's like loud and clear up in my space.
Mhm. Yeah, and that again shows
It's
us,
funny.
right? Like we're
Yeah,
multifaceted beings as mothers. We're
we
allowed to do
are.
all of it,
And
and
hmm
you're lucky that you have a support system, and that's
I am
wonderful.
very
Um,
grateful for my support system. That is true. And it took me a lot of time to overcome. Well, we're always working through
yes.
our limiting beliefs, our cognitive like distortions. Perfectionism is a big
Mhm.
one for me. And
Yes.
so, I always had to work through
To
that.
receive help and ask for help.
Yeah, receiving help, and this isn't the perfect time. No, there's never gonna be a perfect time,
Ever.
right? And so
Mm-mm.
otherwise it's not
But we're
gonna
having the
happen.
conversations anyway.
Exactly.
Me?
Yeah, it's gonna
Yeah.
happen anyway, regardless. So
Yeah.
that's what happens when you have a mom of three.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's life.
But this is it. This is it, people. Yeah.
Right. That's
So
reality.
exactly. Yeah. Well, Norma, oh my gosh, I just love this conversation today. What I love so much about your story is really it reminds us that, like our intuition isn't loud. Like we have to kind of, come into stillness, like you said, right? It doesn't,
Mhm.
rush. It kind of slowly whispers. And then over time, I think as we put in
Yes.
those practices and then start to listen, it gets louder. Or then maybe universe
Yes.
does something like, your trunk of your car hits you over the head. It does something drastic.
Or the universe could knock some sense into you. That can.
Right. Yeah. So it could be massive like that, or it could be
Yeah,
subtle,
like I always
right?
talk about
It's funny.
this one meme that I saw that it's like, can I get a sign? God, please send me a sign. And there's arrows and signs and all these signs. And it's like, can I get a sign here? Sign. So that
Right.
was my sign here
That
sign.
was
Like,
your
girl,
that was your legit,
yes.
yeah, literal sign for sure.
Yes, it's
Knock some
my whack
sense into
above the
you.
head. That's how I see it. And
Oh man.
I thank it
That's rough.
so much. Yeah, it
Yeah,
really got things moving.
yeah, I sure
But
did.
while I say that, I definitely do want to drive home that life it doesn't have to start yelling at you or totally
Hmm.
completely fall apart. It doesn't have to get to that
Hmm.
point,
Hmm.
which is where we come in, and that's where we have to be honest with ourselves. Like, even if it's just
Yes.
one small little shift, decisions that are difficult,
Yes.
one at a time that we start making. If you just, consistently
Yes.
one, unpacking the bag, like I said, one at a time, then it doesn't have to be
Right.
this big, huge where everything,
Right.
falls apart
A
because
massive.
we're
Mhm.
starting to like lean in
Yeah.
and walk towards our path, and it can be
Hmm.
subtle and it can be gradual. It doesn't have to be like where
Right.
things shake off. That happens
Yeah,
when we're like,
exactly.
la, happy in
It's not an
our
earthquake.
blinders. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the tower doesn't
Mm.
come in to destroy you. It doesn't come in to destroy your
Yeah.
life. It comes in to shake things up so that you can build it
Mm.
back together in a way that is more
Mm.
aligned to you
And
now.
safe for you, right? Yeah. I think
Mhm.
the more that, when we start to listen a little bit more, and you don't have to, like, we don't have to quit our jobs the next
No,
day, or, you
ah,
can, like you said,
no.
start saving or take a
Took
class
me a couple
here, or,
years. Yeah.
we
In
don't
the
have to make
process, I was
dramatic
saving. Yeah.
changes. Yeah. And then
Yes.
just noticing, like, what begins to shift or what begins to change, like
Yes.
emotionally, mentally, spiritually, like all of that insights as like through that process, right?
Yes.
I think
And
that's one thing
allowing
that I'm really
yourself the
learning.
permission to let those
Mm.
things fall away that aren't in
Hmm.
alignment anymore.
Yeah. Oh,
Allowing,
yes.
not hanging
So
on.
noticing where we feel tight, or where
Mhm.
something feels expansive or joyful or like
Yes.
energized, and when we're pouring into like our cup more, and on the days when we're not, right? It's really kind of like tuning in, growing that awareness, strengthening that
Yes.
awareness. I think, and like you said, giving ourselves permission in those
Yes. To have
smallest
needs
ways.
also. Yes. To have
Mm-hmm.
needs. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
I think I really need, I need a bath tonight. I need to slow things
Yes.
down. And when I want to say yes, I'm going to say, you know what? Thank you so much for the invitation. I won't be able to make it.
Hmm. Right. Learning
Because
when to say
I
yes
need to
and no.
just retract and just like take a bath
Hmm.
and just not,
Yeah.
something maybe you can't people that day. Don't push
Hmm.
yourself through that. That's dishonoring yourself.
Yeah.
And over
Yes.
time, that chips away at our authenticity, and you're like, I don't even know who I am because I've been pouring into
Right.
everybody else.
Right. Yeah. And that's part of pouring into your own healing, right? Is choosing making those decisions that are in
Yes.
alignment with like how you want to feel. Yeah. I'm not going to go to that event today because I'm exhausted. Or yes, I
Yes.
feel like, meeting up with so and so today. I'm, just kind of like that's how we pour into our healing and into our intuition
Yes.
by making those kind of intentional choices, right? Yeah, I love that.
And if you think about children, just going back to
Mm.
kids, they don't do this. They're just, if they
Right.
feel good doing it, they're gonna do it. And
Exactly.
that's kind of what we sort of need to get back to, is that,
I know.
if it brings us joy, if it feels light, if it feels aligned,
Mm.
cool, I'm into it. And if
Mm-hmm.
it feels
Yeah.
restricting or,
Yes.
constricting, or feels if I have to shrink in order to fit into that
Mm.
space, like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, yeah, but some
Yeah. Or pushing it too
truthful, honest
hard.
conversations, yeah, are
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah.
needed, and they don't have to be, again, totally revolutionary or
Mm-hmm.
one day to the next. Norma said it
Right.
could quit your job, and Marissa said to do this.
Right.
Like, no, you don't have to upend your
Exactly.
life. You can start with one thing at a
Small
time.
things.
Hmm.
Exactly. And that makes it more
But
safe,
momentum,
more accessible,
yes,
more realistic
yes,
and doable, right? Versus like the end,
absolutely.
like if you wanted to
Micro
move to a different
goals.
state, for example, micro goals. Yes. And working with
Exactly.
somebody can help if, you need to work with
Yes.
somebody like myself, for example, or
Yeah.
going to Normal. That,
Yeah.
which, is a really great stepping stone if you need that extra support for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Finding
Mm-hmm.
mentorship, getting curious, right?
Mentorship. Yeah.
Connecting. We as humans are social beings. We're not meant to always
Mm-hmm.
just be retracted into our own world. And I know we want
Yeah.
to. It's just a matter of aligning ourselves with people that
Yeah.
make us feel safe and feel at
Mm-hmm.
home to,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the things I always ask, or I try to ask, if I'm gonna have like a big conversation, I'm like, do you have the bandwidth to talk about this? Because they might have stuff of their own going
Oh,
on too,
yeah.
right? To
Exactly.
acknowledge if somebody else has the bandwidth to carry that, or
To
just,
go
you don't
there.
have to fix anything. I just want to talk about it.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. I love that. And yeah, having that extra awareness and asking for, well, I guess getting consent too, at the same time. Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, love that. Yeah. So, to all of our listeners today, just kind of want to take a pause and asking you to take a deep breath. And I invite you to take a quiet moment today. It could be maybe right now, it could be after this episode, it could be at whatever point of the day, even just, 1 minute, right? And even doing this practice is maybe to sit with yourself, like Norma's been saying, in stillness and asking, what is my intuition trying to tell me right now or today?
mhm,
Or when it comes to a decision, right? If you're going to make it at the grocery store, oh, what do I feel? Noticing those subtle sensations in the body, whatever kind of messages and physical sensations is telling you, is just doing that little simple practice, right? What is my intuition trying to tell me? Right? And just
yes,
listening to see what arises. So, yeah, I just kind of want to put that out there, food for thought. Norma, thank you so much for coming on. It's been such a pleasure, and you've been such a
thank you
joy to
so
talk
much.
with. I've loved connecting with you. I hope we can connect more again down the
Yes,
road, and I can go
likewise. I
visit
would love
you
that.
in the Noble House. Yeah.
Yes, I would
Can
love
you
that.
share? I would love to meet you in person. Yeah. Share with our
Likewise.
sisters, our listeners, how they can connect with you.
Sure. They can find us on social media at Sage Holistic Wellness or The Noble House. You don't necessarily have to live in El Paso, Texas to connect with me or us. We also do remote sessions and Zoom, through mentorship, coaching, and different modalities. But yeah, on Thursday nights for sure. We always have a really amazing class. Come as you are, come when you can. And that's at 6:30 p.m. on Thursdays at the Noble
Okay.
House at 905 Noble Street in El Paso.
Is there like a schedule or anything like that you guys post or online or
Yeah,
website or
we
on your
usually
social
have a
media?
calendar
Okay.
online, and it's so funny. Like, once I left the corporate world, I was like, oh yeah, I have to get back to technology. So that's one of the things, especially in
Yeah, you're
this
learning.
fast moving, fiery energy,
I
that I'm like, okay, it's time to get back to systems and,
know. Oh, yeah.
putting that
Yeah.
into place. But you
Yeah.
definitely have a space here. Thursdays at
Cool.
6:30 p.m. and Saturday mornings at 7 a.m. We have sunrise tai chi.
Nice.
That's
Oh, I
free.
love that. Oh, I
That's
would love
free
to
for,
make one of
so
those.
if your
Yeah.
excuse is like, I don't have the whatever money, you can bring your kids 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And you can do tai chi and they can play. There's a
Mm.
safe space for them to be. So that
Oh,
could be a great
awesome.
start too.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to have to take you up on
Thank
that too one
you.
day.
Yeah, please
Yeah.
do.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Norma.
much. It was great talking to you.
Yeah, you
Thank you
too.
everyone for listening.
Thank
I
you.
truly hope that you take away something here today, that is of value,
Yes,
and
I'm
really
sure they
helps
will.
plant a seed for your journey.
Thank you, Norma. Yeah, and
Thank you
if
so
this
much.
episode, thank you. If this episode resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe and leave a review to help the podcast grow and reach other mamas who need to hear this medicine. And thank you all for being here. Thank you, Norma. Thank you for
Thank you so
doing this
much.
inner work and this journey of life. And as always, I'm so grateful to walk this journey with you all. Take care, and we'll catch you on the next one.